I'm Smári McCarthy. I'm half Icelandic, half Irish technologist slash political activist. Generally, I've been, in favour of smaller units of governance and more self-determination for smaller groups of individuals and so on. So tonight, what I'm going to try to do is take some of the context that we gained in Iceland after the economic collapse of 2008 and then kind of talk about the constitutional process we went through after that and put that all into the context of what's happening here now and the ways in which the different kind of rhetorics are moving against the idea of Scottish independence. After the economic collapse in 2008, one of the big demands that came up quite early was that our constitution is a Danish hand-me-down from originally 1918 that was altered a little bit in 1944 when Iceland got independence. They mostly just removed the word king and replaced it with the word president and a couple of other minor tweaks, and they said this constitution shall be reviewed in full no later than 1945. 1992, there had been two minor tweaks to it. They added a full chapter of human rights legislation into it then and said it was okay. And after the collapse, what happened was 1,000 people were randomly selected from the census to get into a room where they spent a full day just talking about what should a constitution contain nowadays. And from there, all of the suggestions that came out of that process got fed into this constitutional council. But these 25 people got into a room and spent 3 months using the input from these 1,000 people, plus kind of continuous feedback from letters and email to Facebook and Twitter comments to YouTube videos and forums and whatnot, that then got handed over to the Parliament. And the Parliament batted it about for a couple of years, and then ultimately they essentially decided to kill the project. So the people who are in power now are exactly the same, and they have zero interest in changing the constitution because it's been quite useful in keeping them more or less in power for the last century. There's so many good things in that new constitution. It guaranteed freedom of information so that people had a right to access any information that the government had. But also, so there are 3 different mechanisms for the public to initiate initiative and referendum. It's certainly a good step in the right direction. So there's always that risk, regardless of the system. I mean, now it's possible for any single parliamentarian to put forward that kind of bill. And there certainly are parliamentarians in the Icelandic parliament and probably in every parliament who would be willing to do that if only they could get away with it. While there's always a possibility of bad ideas to come forward, if the process is built in a good enough way, you don't have to worry too much about that. When you're trying to get a population to actually show up, providing them with something that is of value to them is kind of number one. And making that into something real and tangible. And this is part of the reason why I think Scottish independence is such an interesting deal, because right now, even though Scotland does have, roughly equivalent powers to, proportionally to England in many ways, in practice, you don't have control over so many issues in your society, and having more control means that you can have a more engaged public, right?